Welcome on back to another episode of the Goonery, coming to you on a Friday this week. Not our typical Thursday show, but nonetheless, we're back. We're here to talk playoff football, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields, and some wrestling. What else is new? But Brandon, a great weekend. Super Wildcard weekend lived up to the name that was billed. It might have been the first time it's ever been called that. It was a damn good weekend of football.
Really good. And we talked about how there's going to be certain games that we're going to look forward to. And I want to start with one in particular, and that was the Saturday night vehicle with the Chargers and Jaguars. And it's one of those things where you saw the Chargers get out to a big lead, even if Trevor Lawrence was giving gifts to the other team. There was that one time, and I tweeted this out, once the Jaguars scored 14, in the third quarter, I said the Chargers are going to do the Charger thing, aren't they? And they did exactly that, the Charger thing. And a lot had to do with it. A lot to do with it was their head coach, who, by the way, is a bottom five head coach in the National Football League. Yep. And his job is not in jeopardy. But Joe Lombardi, the offensive coordinator, got fired. The quarterbacks coach got fired as well. So it seems to me they got scapegoated, because I would dare to say that the offense wasn't the reason why the Chargers lost that game. The defense did.
No, it's not. It is not. It comes down to Staley and the defense. I mean, Staley being the defensive-minded guy, you cannot be as talented of a team as the Chargers are.
Yeah.
And look that bad in a half of football. Like, they were completely manhandled by an inexperienced and just hungrier Jaguars team. That's all that comes down to. And I know that everyone, like, the big conclusion here is the conclusion everyone's jumping to is let's dump on the Chargers, let's dump on Staley. I think the big takeaway from this game is Trevor Lawrence is taking that next step. I know he threw 4 interceptions in the first half, right? You can see how bad he could get, but that second half, the fact that he was able to come out, make those halftime adjustments, lead a team back to victory, being down 27, he looked like an MVP in the second half. I mean, completely different quarterback. That is the quarterback you drafted number 1 overall. That's exactly what everyone hoped he would be. And no one's talking about that. At least I haven't seen much of it.
Mm-hmm. And it sucks because you are overshadowed by the other storylines of the weekend. The Giants upset, the 49ers, who regardless of whether they were favored in the game, they're a very popular team. They're always going to dominate the headlines. And then, of course, you have Dallas Cowboys winning a playoff game on the road, which hasn't happened since the early 90s. Yeah, it's, everything's going to overshadow Trevor Lawrence and how he actually played very, very well in the second half. And it got me to thinking that, man, this guy, and I don't expect him to win in Kansas City. They're going to keep it close, but I don't expect him to win. But I will say this, though. With Calvin Ridley looming next season, I'm going to say this now. Trevor Lawrence is going to be heavy in the MVP conversation next year. He's that good. And guess what? He's only going to get better. And it's not a situation with Carson Wentz, with Doug Peterson, where Carson Wentz, it turns out, when that article came out about him being a diva and wasn't playing with the game plan, turns out that might have been true. Yep. I don't see that with Trevor Lawrence. So that marriage with Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence is going to be a great one. And as long as Lawrence continues to develop, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, and I've kind of always thought Lawrence was a bit of a wet blanket, if I'm being honest, off the football field. But I've seen a lot of media coverage of him this week. He seems like a lot more enjoyable of a guy than I ever thought he would, based on his interview clips. I mean, the Waffle House thing is just makes me laugh my ass off. He heard, I forgot which offensive lineman it was, but he's heard, "You've never been to Waffle House? Well, when we win the playoff game, we'll go to Waffle House." And probably the first and only people who will ever make a reservation at a Waffle House, but
especially in this climate, unless you're looking for a fight.
But it's going to be a very interesting game in Arrowhead. Do I expect them to win? No. But they're the biggest underdogs this entire weekend. 8.5 points right now. And if I had to guess, just based on where the big money is at right now, looking at the betting lines, that's going to creep up close to 10, I bet, by the time it closes. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not ruling out them beating Kansas City. You never know. You could catch. I mean, hey, the narrative. Andy Reid off a bye week. It's been the narrative for forever. Who knows? Do I expect it? Do I expect it? No. Would I be surprised? Also, no.
And this game gives me the vibes of that AFC Championship game with the Titans and Chiefs, when the Titans completely dominate the first half, and then the Chiefs remember who they were and dominate the rest of the game. And I expect for this game to be a matter of experience. We're going to see the Jaguars being the more consistent team in terms of playing, playing football, actually come out high and really give it to the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs are going to take over because that's what the Chiefs do. So that game is going to be very, very interesting, and honestly, that might be the best quarterback matchup of this week. But I mean, granted, we got Burrow and Allen, but those two right there, that's going to creep up there, because that's a real testament to how good Trevor Lawrence is going to become.
I really want to give you shit for that, and I'm just having a hard time doing it. It's crazy as that sounds. I mean, we've talked all season the comparisons between Fields and Lawrence and how the media coverage has been very different for them, and rightfully so at times.
Correct.
I mean, just the massive leap forward Trevor Lawrence has taken in the last 2 months is asinine. If we're being completely honest, he is the guy. Yeah. And Jacksonville's going to become a destination. I don't know what their money situation, their cap situation looks like off the top of my head, but Jaguars are going to be running the AFC South for a very long time, I think.
And the thing is, too, when Blake Bortles was the quarterback, but they had the just dominant defense. Guess what? Jacksonville was a destination. Jacksonville was always rocking when it came to those guys. They loved the Jaguars. They always turned out.
They have a great fan base. I mean, it's not talked about enough how great of a fan base the Jaguars have with as shitty of a franchise they have been.
Yeah.
And like they're up there with, in my opinion, the Bills and the Bengals in terms of just like crazy fans who love to have fun.
You know what? You have a point. The only reason I'm agree with you, because I on its service, I probably wouldn't. The only reason I'm gonna agree with you is because it was 42 in that game, and I saw people in the pool. So you might be right.
Hey man, you bought those tickets, you best believe. In this economy, you're swimming that goddamn pool. But I do agree with you that I think Jaguars will come out hot firing in the first quarter, and I have not placed a single bet this entire playoffs. I've been taking a little bit of time off, but I might call my spot this coming weekend, and my biggest bet of the weekend might be the Jaguars to win the first quarter. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, the total right now is sitting at 53, and everything tells you that should go over based on the trends this past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I am really seeing a 27-21 final, like 24-17, something along those lines. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a good game, and the Jaguars just have to hope that they catch Kansas City sleeping, because they're looking ahead to the next week.
I will say the Chiefs will have the most double-digit closest game this weekend. I see a 34-24 victory, and it's going to be a tough 34-24 victory.
Yeah, I mean that's a good way to put it. But I mean, let's just move chronologically here down the slate for this weekend. NFC East matchup: New York Giants going to Philly. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants win that game outright. And I don't know if I'm drinking the Brian Daboll Kool-Aid or what. I don't know how healthy Jalen Hurts' shoulder really is. And on paper, don't get me wrong, Eagles are by far the better team. Right. They are as talented as it gets, top to bottom. There's just something weird about this Giants team, and I really don't know what it is. I feel like they just have a massive chip on their shoulder when they shouldn't. But it's almost the Giants right now I don't want to compare them to Kirby Smart's Georgia national championship speech here, saying everyone counted you out, because I don't really think anyone counted them out against the Vikings. And I don't think anyone's really counting them out against Philly here. It's a divisional matchup. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. And Daniel Jones, he's taking that step forward too. And I still do think the Eagles win this game. Let's not get it twisted, but shout out to what Brian Daboll and the Giants have done this year. I mean, first-year head coach, winning a wild card playoff game. I mean, has to be a lock for coach of the year at this point. And isn't it just frustrating? Crazy that the Bears had an opportunity to hire two of these head coaches that are now won wild card games in their first year. Yeah. Offensive-minded guys who have turned their young quarterbacks' careers around. Who crazy that the Bears had a chance at that, but whatever.
This game, I'm gonna take this game from a couple different angles. So Daniel Jones won himself some money last Sunday. He is absolutely going to be the franchise quarterback of the New York Giants. Now, obviously, the narrative about that could very well change if the performance dips against Philadelphia. And let's be honest, there is absolutely no shame in that, because Philadelphia is they're a machine.
They're the cream of the crop.
If you take out, if Jalen Hurts is indeed still hurt, that defense can still carry things. They have a great offensive line. Miles Sanders is a pretty good running back. Boston Scott kills the Giants every single time he plays them. So it's weird, because I absolutely want to give Daniel Jones credit. But the one thing I will say to Giants fans is the Vikings were going to do this eventually. They had been fooling us the entire season, and it was only a matter of time before Daniel Jones, a guy that has seen the Vikings before, he tore them to shreds.
Should have beaten them.
And I think the most impressive part about what Daniel Jones did is, let's look at who he's throwing the football to.
Yeah.
Isaiah Hodgins, Richie James, Daniel Bellinger, and Kenny Galladay's not even a part of the game plan. That's the most impressive part. So it's super impressive what this team has done. But I tell you, something weird's going to happen this weekend. I think it starts with this game. I cannot definitively say that the Eagles are going to win this football game.
I do agree with the something weird. And if there's any game that feels like it'll happen, it is this one, because this Giants defense, man, I mean,
they're good. They're good.
They're good and they're hungry.
Yeah.
And it's a win of a season for the Giants regardless. Let's not get that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I thought they were going to be in top 5 pick territory this year. I think most people thought top 10 for sure. They are one of the teams still alive that have a chance of going to the Super Bowl.
And I'm going to tell you something. If they defeat the Eagles this weekend, they're going to represent NFC in the Super Bowl. They're going to represent the NFC. That team, because if you come off a win against a division rival, you are practically the hottest team in football. Damn the San Francisco 49ers if they make it. Damn the Dallas Cowboys if they make it. That team is hot, and they're gonna be confident. And you know what else? They're also gonna be doubted still. They're gonna make the Super Bowl if they get past Philadelphia this weekend.
I want to argue with that, and because they should not. They will be on paper the worst team to ever make a Super Bowl if they do.
Absolutely, but you know what? You know who they also said that about? The 2007 New York Football Giants.
Yep.
Anything can happen. If they are the prime examples of anything can happen.
Real quick, though, on the topic of the New York Giants, wouldn't Saquon Barkley look great in orange and blue next year?
Hey, man, I
don't want to jump the gun here.
I very much would love Saquon Barkley on the Bears. I don't care what anybody else says about signing running backs at a certain age and whatnot. I don't want to hear none of that. You want to know why? Because I want to stack this team to be as great as possible. I don't give a damn what y'all think.
Got 120.
If you have the chance to get them,
you got 100. You have 125 million dollars in cap for next year. Guess what? You have the money to spend for next year.
Absolutely.
You can spend it on non-premium positions with that type of money, and that's okay. But Brandon, I wouldn't be surprised to see Saquon go for 150 yards this weekend either, and they just ram it down the Eagles' throats. And
man. If that happens, Giants win that football game. They're gonna win because how Saquon looked against Minnesota. He was great. He was great. Granted, the offensive line for the Giants is really gonna have to play a terrific game. Because I believe
that front seven of the Eagles is pretty fucking. It's
and they get a Josh Sweat back too. That's a
I missed that. Okay.
So so if he goes for 150, there's no way the Giants lose.
Yeah. Picking it back to the AFC though, you alluded to it earlier. Great quarterback matchup, two of the league's best in Burrow and Josh Allen. Bengals going into Buffalo. After last week, I have a very hard time believing that Cincinnati does. Then again, I don't know. I do think Cincinnati wins this game, but these two teams, out of every team that has made it here this weekend that played, they look the worst out of all the winners last week.
You know something?
Cincinnati should not have won that. I mean, if Lamar Jackson was healthy enough to play, it would be a Ravens and Bills matchup this week.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And here's the thing, too. I think there's definitely a distinct difference between the two underperformances of the two teams that's going to be playing each other. On the Bengals side, you're playing a defense that has been lights out in the last part of the season. They have been great. Not much recognition because they're playing without Lamar Jackson, Tyler Huntley, and Anthony Brown have stuck up the joints, so you're not really talking about them. Now, on the side of the Buffalo should have smoked Miami. They should have smoked them, but they didn't because Josh Allen while he could be the reason you win, he will absolutely be the reason why you lose. He is so inconsistent. And you're just like, man, you don't need to be Superman every single time. And that's the reason why they find themselves in dogfights every single week. When we see Buffalo on paper, that should be a team that should be the number one seed in the AFC. But they're not, because a lot of it is because Josh Allen feels like he has to make every single play on the field, and it does not be that difficult for him.
He looked horrendous last weekend. Like, he looked absolutely horrendous. And another situation where if Miami has their quarterback, if Tua is healthy enough to play, I think we're seeing Miami this weekend.
Absolutely.
And so Josh Allen, in my opinion, is still one of the premier quarterbacks in this league. Let's not get it twisted. But when is the turnover conversation going to become more of a national conversation? Because what did he throw? I believe it was three interceptions last week, I believe, correct?
I believe it was three.
Okay, it was two. It was two and a fumble.
And two and a fumble, yeah.
Okay, 3 turnovers. So it was 3 turnovers, all in a pretty short span of each other, from what I remember. He led the league in interceptions this year, and no one wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
This is not me trying to dump on Josh Allen. I still think, like, as crazy as it sounds, I feel like a lot of his interceptions come on overthrows because he still doesn't understand how strong his arm is at times. And
yes, absolutely.
He doesn't know how to put the appropriate amount of touch on the ball, and he's just sales guys.
Yeah.
And that's not just in terms of turnovers either, because you see him consistently, more than anyone in the league, I would argue, overthrow wide open receivers just because he throws the ball too far. And
yeah.
Like, I don't know how he hasn't figured that out yet, but I would describe Josh Allen at this point as that kid on the youth football team who hits puberty before everyone. Is just so much bigger, stronger, faster, better skill-wise than everyone on the field, but has not grown into his body and does not understand how to use it. Everyone knows that, can envision that type of kid growing up, right?
Yeah, because I played against those little bastards. But one guy he reminds me of, and this is from a Michigan fan, and I think any Michigan fan would probably agree with me if they think about it. He is Joe Milton if Joe Milton had accuracy. Joe Milton, I'm going to dive into my Michigan fandom, but Joe Milton has one of the strongest arms I've ever seen. But in 2020, when he took over starting quarterback, I said, man, this guy's going to be an NFL prospect if he puts it together. He never did. But everyone knew how strong his arm was. That's the case with Josh Allen. Josh Allen is a guy that I think you put it perfectly. He does not realize how strong his arm is. But also, I also think this is something not talked about, because he has an elite wide receiver and as a guy who shows up in big games. Gabe Davis, for some reason, he has a knack for big games.
Yep.
However, Gabe Davis is not a legitimate number 2 option. Mm-hmm. He's not. And once you take Stephon Diggs out of the equation, things get a little bit scary. You have to rely on Dawson Knox. You have to rely on Isaiah McKenzie, Khalil Shakir. Like, those guys, they're not number 2s. They're not legit number 2s. I think Josh Allen needs a legit number 2 in order for him to feel even more comfortable, even more dangerous.
No, I agree, because they also don't have the running attack to the rushing game to rely on. That,
but even then, I think James Cook has gotten so much better as the years gone on. As the season gone on, they just don't use him.
I agree. I do agree. Devin Singletary sucks, though. He also, I believe, had 1,000. I think he had 1,000 yards this year and had the quietest 1,000-yard season ever, next to Ty Algier down in Atlanta. Which, yeah, he had over 1,000 yards. Yeah, like the quietest 1,000 yards ever. But it's just like, everyone was hyping up that this Buffalo team was going to go out and get a big play running back at the deadline, right?
Yes.
What do? They go out and get Nyheim Hines, which he contributes on special teams. That's first player ever to return two kicks in one game for a touchdown a few weeks back. Pretty cool. But I can't help but think back to the conversation we had right around the trade deadline on this show, when we were throwing around the idea of them trading for Saquon Barkley this year as a fuck it, let's go win a Super Bowl move. And what do you know? The Giants have to be thanking themselves they didn't do that.
Oh, 100%.
But it's I'm not sure what the weather's looking like in Buffalo this weekend. I mean, I could go out on a limb here and guess that there's probably going to be snow on the ground.
Probably.
But I'm expecting a dogfight. I really, really am expecting a dogfight. And I don't want to go there, but there's unfinished business here from a few weeks ago. Like, I hate going there, but these guys, that's in the back of their heads, or at least you have to think it is.
100%. And honestly, it will leave a bad taste. I think the Bills, if I'm not mistaken, it leaves a bad taste in their mouth, because if they win, they have to play on a neutral site and stuff like that. So there is unfinished business, as much as it is uncomfortable to say. And I'm not gonna lie, this game, I don't think much defense will be played in this game. It's gonna be just straight, It's gonna
be a Big 12 game. It will be.
It's gonna be a Big 12 game. That's the perfect way to describe it. And you know something? I picked the Bengals to win the Super Bowl, to be in the Super Bowl, and I'm going to maintain that, because I'm sorry, until Josh Allen fixes the turnover issues, I cannot in good faith see them in the AFC Championship game.
I did pick Buffalo at the start of our postseason predictions, and I'm going to ride with them. I'm going to stay with Buffalo here. I do think that. Do I think they're the better team right now? Necessarily, no. But again, I think they feel like they have more to play for, more to
absolutely
prove. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what it comes down to in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We talked about it with the Giants, and the Bills still feel like an underdog despite being, what are they? I think they're 6-point favorites right now, which is crazy. That line, it makes
That line, that's
I
a
mean,
wild line.
this is the first time on this show I will ever call Vegas stupid because they've taken a lot of my money. But like, I don't know what the hell is going on there. I'm expecting a big game from Dawson Knox.
They need it.
They have, as of late, they've done a nice job of getting him more involved in the offense towards the end of the regular season. He was non-existent for a while. Like, he was just a decoy at points this year. I don't know what happened. Josh Allen's favorite red zone target last year, and it just.
So I know what happened. I believe he missed a couple of games because I believe his brother passed away.
Okay, well then I do not remember that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I do think we're still going to see a Buffalo win, but not the last time we're going to be seeing these two teams play in the playoffs. And
I'll be front and center for it.
I mean, just look at the 4 AFC teams left here, the quarterbacks we have moving forward. Trevor Lawrence, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Herbert knocked out last week, Lamar Jackson still unhealthy. It's just okay. Well, we could we could, for those who are not listening, not watching the show and are listening. Brandon gave the air quotes on Lamar. Let's talk about that real quick before moving on, because I mean, I thought he was as good as gone until they fired the offensive coordinator today.
Yes.
Today or yesterday, whatever it was.
Today.
And they came out and said Lamar is going to be heavily involved in the offensive coordinator search. Well, you have to pay him a fat ass contract first before you can ever expect him to give any input on that, I think, because the minute you franchise tag him, oh boy.
And I sincerely, I like John Harbaugh a great deal, but he better be damn sure that he's going to be a Raven next year, and not under a damn franchise tag either. I don't want to hear that. So I do think the move to get Greg Roman out of there had a lot to do with them retaining Lamar Jackson. 1,000%.
And a lot of what the Greg Roman issue comes from, the wrong positions love the Greg Roman system.
Yes, exactly
Tight ends eat. Running backs are always going to get their due. No receiver wants to play in that fucking
absolutely.
And there's a reason they haven't been able to retain anyone or bring anyone in, despite the talent they have everywhere else on that team.
Yep. But I tell you though, like, I don't want to hear anybody demonizing Lamar Jackson for this. They fiddled around with his contract situation until the season started, and there was people even saying before the season started, I don't want to see Lamar Jackson take the field, because if he gets hurt, his money is gone. That's it. Because for a guy that's a running quarterback, everybody, the concern is definitely going to be that, oh man, if he can't run, he's not effective. Well, he gets hurt, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't want to question anybody's injury, but if he sat out, a lot to do with it was definitely a decision about his finances, and that's completely fine. I'm not knocking him for that, because the Ravens did the wrong thing, point blank. However, if he would have never taken a snap for Baltimore again,
I also wouldn't be surprised.
I you know what? I don't know what to feel about the comments of the input of offensive coordinator. I don't know how to feel about that, because I don't know if Lamar Jackson feels the same way.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a good point. That's a good point, that you can't just assume that Greg Roman was his issue. And if I had to guess, yes, I do think he will be a Baltimore Raven next year. I would say it's about 65-35 right now. And other than that, if he is not a Baltimore Raven, I think he's going to be a New York Jet.
We are on the same page on the new part, but I think it'll be New Orleans, and it would be a seamless fit if that was the case. But also, if Tampa Bay does not want to completely restart, because Brady's gone. Brady's definitely gone. Yeah. If they want to start over, why not?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean that kind of segues us into our next game here. We have Cowboys and San Francisco. The two more dominant performances of the weekend. We could just start with the final game of the weekend, the Monday night game, Dallas and Tampa Bay while we're here. Father Time won. Father Time finally won. And Cowboys, Dak proved everyone wrong. Mike McCarthy proved everyone wrong with that win going into Tampa. And Tampa was exactly the team we thought they were all year. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter that it was the playoffs and the calendar magically flipped. Brady looked 45 fucking years old. And this is coming from a massive Tom Brady fan. If he comes back and tries to play again next year, I just I would look at him. I mean, okay, look at him through a screen and just ask him why. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? People are going to remember this like the Jordan, yes, he won a Super Bowl, but these last 2 years are going to be remembered like the Michael Jordan Wizard years, where it's just like, dude, what the fuck were you doing? Right. And I get Brady might have a divorce to pay for now, might want a couple extra million to pay for all that, but hey, guess what? He's not going to be losing his money when Giselle has more money to her name than him at the end of the day. So it's a whole different discussion, but you just have to ask. I'm sure he's just asking himself, like, was it worth it? And I'm sure since he's a fucking psychopath, he's probably saying yes. But like, why? The question is just why. I thought that when after announcing he retired last year, I was like, all right, this makes sense. You know, great ending, proved he could do it himself. Mm-hmm. All because fucking Adam Schefter broke it before him, man. He came back. He ruined his marriage, ruined his family.
First things first. 49ers and Cowboys is the sexiest game of this weekend. Oh, yeah. The names, the aesthetics, all is the sexiest game of this weekend. And one thing that I will say, I was very much impressed with Brock Purdy. We ain't getting into the 49ers. It's really not to get into. We knew what was going to happen. Yeah. But Brock Purdy was really impressive, and he did start slow. But go ahead.
Yes, his numbers look good on paper, right? Yeah. I've been a big Brock Purdy fan since he's taken over. Loved him at Iowa State. His numbers last week were more inflated by yards after the catch than any other quarterback. And he still won that. He commands the Kyle Shanahan offense. Fantastic. I still think they're the team to beat in the NFC here, but Brock Purdy finally, for the first time, in my opinion, was looking like a rookie. But that's not to say he looked bad, but I just think his numbers last week were very much inflated by yards after the catch.
Absolutely. And you know what? If a rookie is not as sharp in the playoffs, it's okay. It's completely okay. And I do think that this is a way bigger test this week. Cowboys defense looked ferocious against Brady. I mean, and granted, Brady being Brady at his old age certainly did help matters, but Cowboys defense looked good, all things considered.
So I need to ask you, is there a bigger game wrecker right now than Micah Parsons?
No.
I don't even think it's close. I think he had 9 pressures last week.
The closest game record is the guy that's wearing the opposite jersey this Sunday. It's Nick Bosa. Yep. Those two guys, they're the class of their own. They're amazing. But I want to touch on the Cowboys real quick. I'm gonna be honest. I really don't care about what they did against Tampa Bay. We knew what Tampa Bay was. Yep. We knew that their defense was not the same. And granted, I thought Tampa Bay was going to win this game because I just didn't have any trust in Dak Prescott. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that I can't trust this performance from Dak because every game has been something different. A different story. Yep. There was one thing that I said he needed to do, and that's what got him the win. Dak used his legs. He used his legs, and the offense looked unstoppable because of it. But I tell you, this 49ers defense is something different, something special. And I'm going to be honest, outside of CeeDee Lamb and maybe Dalton Schultz, considering the game that he played amazing on Monday. You take CeeDee Lamb out the equation, it's going to get a little scary for Dallas. So it's going to be a big test for Dak this week. And I tell you, if he can pull this out, I mean, man, because this is the furthest the Cowboys have gone since the 90s if they want to reach the NFC Championship game. And that's crazy to even utter, but that's exactly the case.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any game that the 49ers would crumble in, I honestly think if 49ers win this game, they win the Super Bowl. That is my prediction, because this is going to be the toughest test for them.
1,000%.
I mean, Brock Purdy is waking up in cold sweats leading up to this game, thinking about Micah Parsons coming at him. And
absolutely,
that's not an exaggeration. That's as bad of a matchup you could have for a rookie quarterback. But like, it's just, and I get the 49ers have a fantastic offensive line. I fully understand that, but Micah Parsons, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And the Dallas defense is very good. Tampa could not get, jack shit going. Leonard Fournette is as washed as it comes. He might be more washed than Brady is, which is crazy to think about. Fournette looked great the last 2 years, and then this year he just looked like his final years in Jacksonville again.
Yeah, looked very slow.
But Christian McCaffrey is back to being the most dynamic.
He's unbelievable.
The most dynamic weapon in football. I don't know how they got him for so little. I know, like, looking back on it, it's like, oh, okay, I could see that, but they have not lost a football game since they traded for Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
And he is the most perfect player for the Kyle Shanahan offense that you could ever imagine.
Yes.
And I'm jealous. I'm genuinely jealous that the 49er fans get to watch an offense that has Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. It's just Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell has looked great coming off in limited role too.
An embarrassment of riches, and it makes me sick. Kyle Shanahan gets to work with all those toys. It's not fair.
Being that good and still having that much to work with.
Right. Oh my God.
Like, I think a Matt Nagy offense with those guys could be competent.
Wait.
But yeah, I think this is the game that I'm the most excited for this weekend by far, I think. And good on the NFL for putting it in the Sunday,
absolutely,
the 5:30 slot, not
absolutely
Sunday night, but I'm very, very excited for it. Two of the league's most storied franchises, and it's going to be another great weekend of football.
Man.
I don't think there's going to be any duds, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So we got to address this before we move on here. Aaron Rodgers was on the Pat McAfee show this week, like he usually is, and essentially said something along the lines, I don't have the exact quote pulled up, that he still thinks he can play MVP football. Okay, fine. But did you notice that within the quote, he mentioned nothing about his team, mentioned nothing about the Packers, just about him, MVP football. And I'm not doubting that. I get that. It may have come off wrong. I'm not even doubting that. But the fact that the best take we've seen on the situation on the internet came from Rob Gronkowski saying that, yeah, but that's like the most selfish. Notice how he didn't say anything about his team and just about himself. Makes sense, or whatever Gronk said. Who would have thought Rob Gronkowski would have the most perfect take? That fucking meathead.
Of all people, but I have the exact quote here. I'm going to read it. Do I still think I can play? Of course. Can I play at a high level? The highest. I think I can win MVP again in the right situation. Is the right situation in Green Bay or somewhere else? I'm not sure. I don't think you should shut down any opportunities. I think there's more conversations to be had. Okay, so this quote that I just read, I read it clear and concise. And one thing that I read, and I'm sure you read, is I can win MVP, I can win at a high level, and that's that, right?
You can't.
There are Packer fans that are going to sit here and tell us that we're taking his points out of context. What is there to take context out of this quote? It's literally saying me. I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. And the funniest thing about the people that are defending Rodgers, these are Packer fans. You know what he's about to do for a third straight year? He's about to fiddle with your little feelings and see if he's going to come back to Green Bay or see if he wants to leave or he wants to retire. And y'all are not sick of this by now? Listen, I'm going to say something I never thought I would say. The Aaron Rodgers may not be worth the Green Bay Packers troubles anymore. Because here's the thing. They missed the playoffs this year. They got into a big hole, which they had to dig themselves out of just to even get close to the playoffs. And you have to question his commitment every single season. I don't know if the trouble is worth it anymore. It's either that or you trade Jordan Love and start over in the draft this year. Other than that, it's crazy to me how Packer fans are going to sit here and defend this man when he's been holding your franchise hostage for 3 years, even if there's been bad things going on in terms of what weapons they did or didn't get. That's another discussion. But if you feel that way, if you feel like you're being run by the organization, make your intentions clear that you want to go, retire, or play somewhere else. Other than that, it gets ridiculous every year that we have to talk about this.
Yep, and it's exactly what he wants to. He doesn't get the attention at home from his family, so he has to get the media attention. All that comes down to. And I don't want to give it any more attention. We'll see. I'm sure we're going to talk about it again, but there's something just on the topic of Gronk. By the time it's all said and done, do you think he will have made more money from USAA commercials or his rookie contract in the NFL?
I never thought about that. And even though he made a very profound statement, I still don't want to see him on TV as much as everyone else. I'm good. No thanks.
Yeah, and
no thanks.
I know everyone likes to dump on Gronk. He can be annoying. I fully understand it.
Very much so.
But he is an idiot, meathead. People don't give him enough credit for being as financially savvy as he's been.
Absolutely.
While he was in the league, he did not spend a single dollar of an NFL contract. He only used money from endorsements.
Yeah.
Good for him, man.
Yeah.
Good for him. And
he's the blueprint. Him and Marshawn Lynch are the blueprints.
Yep. So we have to talk about it. The rumors been swirling nonstop about what the Bears are going to do with the first overall pick, whether it's a trade with the Colts, whether it's a trade with the Raiders. A new one that came out today was a potential trade with the Carolina Panthers. Now, is this legit? I doubt it. Let's be real. But it's mock draft season. We're leading up to it. This is what fans of teams who are shitty do. Proposed trade was number 1 for the Panthers' first pick this year, which is number 9 overall. Their first next year, and I believe it was a second or a third next year. And DJ Moore. I am taking that in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the thing is, you try and stock up with as many first round picks as you can next year. Just because the quarterback class is going to be so strong, you can trade those. You can trade those and just have draft capital for days.
Yeah.
And if we're thinking this, Ryan Poles has to be thinking it.
Absolutely. And here's the thing too. Now, if you trade DJ Moore, you're going to be devoid of the pass rusher that you're looking for, the 3 technique that you're looking for. I want to remind people that if you indeed are picking number 9 if you're the Chicago Bears, not only do you have draft capital, but you're going to be picking Tyree Wilson. You can be picking Peter Skoronski, Paris Johnson. Those are pretty good picks, regardless if they're not the top guys. It's okay to not have those top picks. But I also do want to say something. I meant to say this last week because I think it's a profound statement. Now, I'm going to preface something, and I'm going to make a confession. When I was little, I was a New York Giants fan. It was because of my father, and then I went to be a Chicago Bears fan because I make terrible decisions. Now, I'm going to say this as a guy who's been a Chicago Bears fan since 2005. This offseason of 2023 is the single most important offseason in Chicago Bears franchise history. This is not hyperbole. This is not me trying to stir up anything. This is not me trying to give clicks to just so I can say something outlandish. I genuinely mean this. We have a new president. The GM and head coach are in place. A franchise quarterback is in place with the biggest cap space in the National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be a seismic shift this offseason when it comes to what the talent is. And granted, what happened to the offseason will very much carry to the regular season, because you can sign everybody that you think will make the team better, but you also have to have results. And that also comes from the quarterback position. We need to see if we're going to have our franchise quarterback. So the moves that could be made are practically endless,
limitless,
and that's the beauty of it. And I know there are going to be people who are going to fantasy book their way into getting the entire draft of a certain team. But there's no Ricky Williams out there, so it's not going to happen. But I do think the most important thing is getting draft capital to making this a draft that there's a whole bunch of talent that's going to be in here, and not just in the 5th round like it was last year.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong, and I don't want to say that this is make or break for Ryan Poles this offseason, but
correct,
it kind of is.
Yeah,
it kind of is, because you will never be in a position like this ever again. And honestly, I hate to say this, but I think the absolute worst thing you could do this offseason is stay put at number 1.
I agree.
It's not that, like, he's been clear that he does not want to build through free agency. Yes, he's going to spend money. Let's not, like, he has to spend money. Like,
right.
But if you want to build through the draft, stay true to your word and fucking trade that first overall pick and just have as much capital as you can, because that's one way to have Bear fans turn on you. Could you imagine if they stayed put and drafted a defensive lineman with that first pick? Granted, 2 very, very, very good football players. I would love to have them on this team.
Mm-hmm.
But considering the situation, I would be pissed, and I would just feel bad for them, because they're walking into a situation where Bears fans are going to constantly what if them, I think, because it's like, well, if we would have traded back 2 spots, we probably what if we could have got them.
And let's be very, very honest about something. We have endured that for way too long.
Mm-hmm.
If it happens again, I simply can't take it. And it's not even going to be the fault of the pundits anymore. Nope. It's going to be my fault for cheering for a franchise that constantly disappoints me. So it'll be my fault. So I'll distance myself. But I will go as far as saying this. You say Ryan Poles will be on the hot seat if you don't have a good offseason. Everybody's got to be on the hot seat.
Absolutely.
Everybody.
Absolutely.
Franchise quarterback, head coach, GM, everybody's got to be on the hot seat.
Yep.
So that's why this offseason is so damn important. It is so important to get what you need done, because if not, oh my goodness, it's going to set the franchise back even further than it already was this season.
And I think that the biggest thing that we've always complained about with the Bears has been quarterback play. I mean, throughout our entire time as fans, it's always been the quarterback play. In my life, I remember back to Rex Grossman. Man, if they had a quarterback other than Rex Grossman, they would have won the Super Bowl.
Without question.
And then Kyle Orton. Oh, he's not good, but he's not bad. And you go over Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler. Oh my God, what the fuck? This guy likes to smoke cigarettes. I heard that more than I would like to admit as a kid. It was, oh, he sucks at quarterback because he likes to smoke cigarettes. He doesn't care. Like, just everything. Kevin Warren, the new president of the Chicago Bears, put it perfectly. We need to find a winning formula here, and it starts at the quarterback position, because if you look at since the Bears have won a Super Bowl, they've had like 45 different starting quarterbacks. It all starts at the quarterback position, and we all think we have that quarterback. Let's fucking go and let's trudge forward.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw, going back to Rex Grossman, because when I became a Bears fan, I believe it was Kyle Orton that was the quarterback first, and they went back to Rex Grossman. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you heard Teddy Bruschi's quote about 2006.
Oh yeah, I saw
that. And I think because of that, although he's very right, he's gotten to the bottom tier of my favorite ESPN analysts because that hurt my damn feelings. But but yes, like that's where it started. And granted, I know my feelings on Rex Grossman. I can't stand him in. I'm gonna be honest with you. I went through the Kyle Ortons, which I don't dislike him. No, Jay Cutler, to our standards, is the best Chicago Bears quarterback we had, and trust me, that is not a compliment coming from me. I have my feelings on Jay Cutler, and not a lot of people are gonna like them, and that's okay. Josh McCown, Jason Campbell, Todd Collins, Caleb Haney. The names, man. It hurts. It hurts.
The Bears should have a jersey just like Cleveland does.
Yes, they should. And the only reason why we don't is because we had that one Super Bowl. That one stinking Super Bowl.
Man wasn't even good. He wasn't even good. The spunky QB was not a good football player. Happened to play with Walter Payton and the greatest goddamn defense of all time. But that's a whole different conversation. So we haven't talked about it in a while here, but to wrap up the show, I have to talk about it. 30th anniversary of Monday Night Raw coming up on this coming Monday. They announced a segment that I think got the entire let me take that back. Not the entire internet. Wrestling fans on the internet.
Yeah.
It got them going. They announced that the entire Bloodline family, I mean, whatever, the Anoa'i family, the Fatus, whatever you want it, the Samoans, the Samoan dynasty, let's say that.
Right.
They will be having a full family acknowledgement ceremony for the tribal chief, Roman Reigns, on the 30th anniversary show. And with all the hints that they've been dropping, all the breadcrumbs, the Royal Rumble poster having the purple lightning bolts, the conveniently posting more YouTube videos of The Rock on their pages the last week or so. They have released new merchandise on WWE Shop for The Rock. All signs are pointing towards The Rock and Roman at WrestleMania more than we had ever thought before.
I never thought we would get here.
Me either.
I never thought we would get here.
We've been having this conversation as wrestling fans since Roman has become the guy. This has been going on, what, 7 years now, this conversation? 8 years that, and that's insane that Roman's been at the top for that long, and just the trajectory he's on now, it's just the run of a lifetime.
Right.
And there's no other character that this would work with, because if you would have done this in the suffering succotash era, whatever it was,
Lord,
it would not have worked. It would not have worked.
Yeah.
And do I think Dwayne is going to show up on Monday? No, absolutely not. And that's where the story starts.
You have a good point. Because I mean, it is so hard to dodge all of the hints. New Rock T-shirts and hoodies are hitting the website, people. Like they are really hinting at this extremely hard. And here's the thing too. I think anybody that's expecting The Rock to show up at Raw, you're probably mistaken. Granted, there's history there.
Surprise.
There's history there. Philadelphia, the Royal Rumble, the last time The Rock helped out Roman Reigns to win the Royal Rumble was in Philadelphia.
Yep.
Okay, so there's history there. But let's be honest, him showing up at Raw compared to the Royal Rumble,
not the same.
Night and day. Think
of the difference in the paycheck. You know, Dwayne is thinking about the dollar signs at the end of the day. Absolutely. Yeah, it might be his family. He's not coming to an episode of Raw until after the Royal Rumble, and even then, who knows if he really will.
True, exactly. But and the thing is too, if the only way I can see The Rock showing up is for him to announce he's being a Royal Rumble. It's the only way.
I don't think they would announce that because I think they've already okay, they're not on the same level, obviously. Cody Rhodes and The Rock are nowhere near the same level.
Depending who you ask.
Okay, fair. But they're not going to blow their load with their two biggest surprises. Right. I also don't think The Rock is even going to be in the Rumble.
No.
He does not need the Rumble, which is where things get interesting here, right?
Right.
What are you going to do with 2 world titles? I know that they're unified right now, but what are you going to do with 2 world titles? Because you're not going to have Roman lose before Mania. It's 2 nights, but you're also most likely not going to have Roman work 2 nights. So I genuinely don't know what's going to happen because it's not going to be a triple threat. It won't be. It will not be a triple threat.
Right.
There is no way that they pull some bullshit like they did with Theory with the Money in the Bank cashing in on the United States Championship, where they're, you know what? I want Gunther at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental. Right. It's not going to fucking happen. It's just not going to happen. I don't know. I genuinely don't know what to expect, which is awesome because The Rock does not need to win the Rumble. He needs to come out at the Rumble and confront Roman after he's standing over Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
That's all that needs to happen. I got it. It just came to me. What's going to happen? They're going to be beating down KO after the match, right? Ooh. Sami Zayn is finally going to flip the switch. It's like, I've had enough. You saw the tease on SmackDown the last few weeks. That switch is finally going to flip in his brain, and they are going to beat the piss out of Sami Zayn. Oh, that's when you hear the, if you smell, and here comes Dwayne. Here comes Dwayne to save the day. And the real head of the table.
I love it. I love it.
You got your night 1 main event. You have the Usos versus Sami and KO. I mean, that the writing has been on the wall for a while. I mean, right. I would love to see Sami be the one to dethrone Roman. Hell, it could still happen.
Yeah.
Realistically, it could still happen.
And you know something? I would not be surprised if by the end of the year, Sami Zayn is holding either one of the world titles. Like he's on
the run of a lifetime.
Red hot right now.
Imagine the babyface turn right now. Could you imagine if he cuts the hair, trims the beard, brings back the NXT theme song, and when he first got called up?
Yeah.
I mean, the underdog from the underground character was as good as it gets.
Yes.
And people forget how good he is in the ring when they let him be.
Oh, yeah.
I would love for him to be the one to dethrone Roman. But I don't know. I'm still not ruling out him winning the Rumble either. I'm really not.
Me either, because with Cody Rhodes coming back, it seems blatantly obvious. However, the one thing that I do circle back to, and granted, different regimes, but when Edge announced he's going to be in the Royal Rumble, it was like, okay, maybe, just maybe, he's going to be the one to win. And then he came out at one, I was like, maybe not? I don't know. Yeah. Now, the one thing I will say is this. I'll make this prediction because we're going to talk more in depth about Rumble next week. But I will say this. If Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns is going to main event the entire event, The Rock will be there. If not, I'm sorry to tell you, he will not be there.
Yep. Man, oh man. When is the last time you've been this on your toes, though, leading up to the Rumble, leading up to WrestleMania? I mean, like, I know we said this last year too, that it was like, man, you really don't know what's going to happen. It's nowhere even close. It's not even close, because the report came out too. I hate reading the dirt sheets, but they just end up on your timeline regardless.
Yeah.
Even with the Cody Rhodes return announcement, WWE is more, quote unquote, more than pleased with the surprises they have planned for the Royal Rumble. So
But that's the thing. That's the thing, though, because the more I think about it like this, like let's just say the Kevin Owens Roman Reigns match does not main event. It's a regular match. Roman wins, rinse, repeat, whatever. Would they have a contingency plan for a night one? Would it be Seth Rollins? Would it be a Sami Zayn? Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes is the obvious choice. Like, we know it's going to happen, but I don't know. In terms of your question of when was the last time I've had this like unpredictability about the Royal Rumble, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. In terms of the men's, I think the 2021 Women's Royal Rumble did not expect what was going to happen. I know Bianca Belair was going to win that one. Did not win it. Did I? I didn't know that. But for the men's, damn. I would say I don't know, man. That's a good question. We have to circle back to that next week. I don't remember when was the last time the unpredictability hit. Yeah. Just like how it was. Now, granted, last year's was unpredictable for all the wrong reasons. But in terms of going into the match, who would win, I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah. And I just had the thought before we wrap up here. I also wouldn't be surprised if this is the week the Bloodline turns on Sami Zayn.
It would be interesting.
Monday night with all of the elders there. I would not be surprised if this is the time.
And I'm going to tell you something. If that happens, right?
There's your Royal Rumble winner. There's your Royal Rumble.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh my God. It would be beautiful. It would be beautiful. You know what? It would actually lead to a scenario that Roman Reigns will probably lose both championships. And I would have never thought that. But if we're really thinking about it, if The Rock does not show up, I think if those titles are taken off of him, Roman's going on a bit of a sabbatical. We were not going to see him for some time until SummerSlam.
Yep.
I'll be interested.
Yep. So with that being said, that's going to wrap up this week's show. If you made it, appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends to listen. Leave us a comment. If you're here, a wrestling fan, leave us your thoughts. Love to hear what you have to say. Your thoughts for the Rumble and Monday night acknowledgement ceremony. But with that being said, we'll have our thoughts on it next week. And
that's right.
Rumble preview. But we'll see you then.